And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. With me tonight, I have Alex from A Town Reviews, and I also have Nick Kafkis with us, and of course, my co-pilot Charlie. Charlie with me as usual. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
And tonight, we're actually doing our Dune spoiler review. And this is a movie that was on my anticipated movie watch list and everything, especially with everything that was going on with it, especially when it was held back because of COVID and things like that. Now they actually have it on streaming services with HBO Max. I sat down and got a chance to watch it on matter of fact Sunday evening, well Sunday morning. My fiance and I decided to go ahead and watch this film, and I really loved it. I liked the visual effects of it. I loved the tone of it. It felt like Game of Thrones because of the way they were introducing each house. You actually understand the background of it, the politics of it, on what everything is going on within this world of Dune. And they also break. And another thing that I was kind of afraid of was this going to be a too complex story for someone like Alex and Charlie and I to be able to understand. So I have Nick on here to be able to explain the novels, what he thought about this Dune remake and everything too. But when you look at the plot, when you look at this, starts in 10191. Duke Leto of House of Eltrice, ruler of the ocean planet Kalandan, is associated by the Perdesha Emperor Shaddam Karona the Fifth to replace House Harkin as fifth ruler of Arkus. Arkus is a harsh desert planet, and the only source of spice is valuable substance that extends human vitality and is critical for installer travel. In reality, Shaddam intends to have House Harkin stage a coup of to retake the planet with the aid of the Emperor. And like I said, this thing is really good. I really love the storyline. Also, too, it is able to actually give you a sense of what this film's about. You actually are introduced into the beef war between the Emperor and everything. And Dave Bautista is actually his right hand man when it comes down to delivering certain messages and things like that. He holds the same higher power than an emperor does. Also, too, I like how they're going into this desert and not even expecting what's going to happen to them or anything like that, because you also have where it's like, well, they're all here with us. Yeah, because they're told they have to be there. So therefore, they're made to actually just clap along and go along with everything, even though they don't like the fact that they're there, but they're there anyways. But what did you guys think about the opening scenes? I thought I was blown away with the visual effects of it at the very start of the film.
So just to clear up a few things for the listeners, real quick, the planets Arrakis,
All right.
Atreides, and Harkonnen.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just
but
making sure we're
as
clear.
yeah, and I have to agree with Alex whenever I was watching his review. The visual effects is definitely stunning. It's something that I would put on my wall because of the visual effects that's in this movie, even with the dark shadowy stuff with Jessica walking in those dark shadowy spaces and it's in black and white. I would have that on my wall. I would have these desert stuff on my wall. But it's just visually stunning. The war that takes place in the first 5 minutes and give you the context of what this movie's about, I was blown away with.
Mhm.
So, what are your guys' opening thoughts on this?
Yeah, for me, as soon as it started, I was just like, okay, this is one of those movies that look good. I was what the first thing that caught my eye was House Atreides, just how much swag they had. Just how their outfits look. They had the robes, their armor, just everything looks stylish.
Prim
And I
and
was like,
proper.
okay, I'm definitely behind this group. I want these outfits in my wardrobe like yesterday. Like, that was my favorite part, honestly.
To be honest with you, man, I'm with you on that because I wanted some of those suits myself. I'm like, man, I
Mhm.
would look fly with something like that, to be honest. That's actually the suits that I would want. Even the desert suits that they have to actually keep you hydrated and stuff like that. I would like to actually have that too. But
Mhm.
I loved the suits though. The suit layouts and stuff like that was just beautifully stunning.
Yeah, the costume
And
design was phenomenal.
yes.
Mhm.
Yep. But another thing though too that I liked aside from that is the chemistry with the father with Paul
Mhm.
and him explaining the fact, hey, look, I didn't want here's the thing. I didn't want to do this in the first place or whatever. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to be a pilot, and I was made to have to do this. And then it kind of goes with Paul, though, in a sense. It's like, I don't want to do this either, but I'm having to do this because of the fact that I'm having to protect everyone that I care about because there are certain enemies there. And I also like the training that he had to go through as well. It has this video game kind of deal with it and stuff like that. And, that's something that I really have to say that I liked about the training part and things like that too. I really feel like, they actually grabbed us with that.
So
And
on that note, actually, that scene is probably the single biggest improvement from the 1984 version. Obviously, special effects have come a long way, so that alone, improved it. But one of the things that's really important about that scene, and I think that they did a good job of demonstrating it from the books to translating it to film, was how those shields work. Right. So a lot of people who haven't read the books ask, why are they using swords? Why aren't they using guns and more advanced weapons? Well, it turns out those shields block anything that is a high speed projectile coming at you. So that's why having a slow blade coming in and things like that, we're able to defeat it. It's the one weakness. But, for that training scene itself, you have to think about, okay, they're not just swinging for speed and attack power and stuff like that, but they're actually trying to maneuver it to get through the shield and penetrate you at the same time. So it's like a whole nother level of fighting that just like has evolved over, the course of about 8,000 years from today.
Definitely. That was the coolest looking scene. I loved how the shields work, just especially when they were like slowly trying to penetrate through the shield. Like that was always really that looked really cool to me. And there's a scene later on in the movie where it shows like a missile coming down on one of their ships, and it just like how it just starts burrowing into the shield. I was like, that looks so cool. I love this shield. It makes sense for war to have like force field shield energy shields. I thought that was a really cool concept.
Now, something that's important about them also is, I don't know if you noticed, during the Harkonnen attack, there were those laser beams, that's what they call them, or laser guns, that were just shooting those big blue beams from the infantry units. When those hit a shield, it actually creates, in the books, a minor atomic explosion. So shooting a shield wall with that over a city, could theoretically blow up everything. So that's why they're just dropping those bombs down from the top and then waiting for their infantry units on the ground to take out the smaller guys. Because they're going to be little puffs of atomic explosions. Obviously not good, but you're not destroying everything you're trying to conquer at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really like that. Also, like I said before, I mean, I wish I would actually put that in it with the book and everything, because they could put that part into it because of the special effects today. Yeah. But knowing that's that powerful, that makes it even that more dangerous, to be honest with you. And I like that level of intensity, so maybe they may actually put it into the next film. Another thing too, like at first I thought the training stuff was just for the training stuff, where basically it's like, okay, it's a training exercise. It's like a VR kind of thing with video games or whatever. I thought, okay, he's just training Paul. And just to see that in war and battle, I'm like, okay, so it's not just a training exercise like I had thought. This is actually how they protect themselves when they're going up against an enemy. So I liked how they did that. And also, too, I liked how Paul goes, well, you know what? I don't feel like practicing today. I just don't have the will to do it or anything. All of a sudden, his trainer goes on ahead and goes, oh, really? He throws a knife at him and he goes, okay, you're really pissing me off. And then after that winds up happening, then he starts training with him and everything. And goes, oh, I see that you found the mood. So I like that back and forth.
I thought Josh Brolin was perfect for Gurney Halleck also. I mean, just the rough about him, gives no shits. I am here to do one job right now, and it's to make sure that you're ready for Arrakis and the shit that we're about to go through.
Definitely. He was great. He was great. I love Josh Brolin. He does great work.
What about you, though, Charlie? What's some of the stuff that you like?
So the stuff I liked, again, we're echoing to the choir. The visuals were absolutely stunning, and I think you had the best director to do that. I mean, just the other movies he's done, like, yeah, I didn't care for Blade Runner 2049, but that visually was really cool. Like, I love, and then like Arrival, the visuals in the Arrival back in 2016, that was really cool looking. But I think the first movie I saw him do was Sicario, and the one with Emily Blunt and Josh Brolin, and then but that sequence of the raid, this raid sequence was shot all through like the night vision goggles, and that's what the whole screen was. That I mean, that's how I knew. I'm like, I was really like blown away at how he was able to do that. And I just figured, and then again, the visuals are like, I got to get this in 4K because it's just I had to play. I had like, I mean, the visuals were just absolutely stunning, but I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the big battle sequences because I figured there's like they showed a lot of them in the trailer, but and then once they got to that sequence was intense, and it's like how Josh Brolin's character, we didn't see him die, we just saw his crew get get Batista'd. But I mean, I gotta say my fan favorite character was Duncan, like Duncan Idaho, like Jason Momoa was like the perfect character to play him. He was a badass. He was such a badass, and I'm glad they got him some moments where him taking out guys one on like multiple enemies one on one. I thought that was really really good. And it was really weird seeing him without the beard for that one sequence. Was because I'm so used to seeing him with a beard. Seeing him like beardless was so weird.
He looks like Gaston.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was actually thinking that. I was like, he could play as Gaston if he really wanted to.
That's big old beer mug. Which actually brings me to another point. He has one of the best scenes in the book that was not used in the film. One of my only things that I was a little bummed about. There's this dinner scene when they first get to Arrakis where Duncan gets hammered drunk on spice beer. And for the first time ever talks back to the Atreides. Because he knows, because he's the ultimate strategist, computer brain human, that there's something not right here. And he lets Leto know. But hey, they redeemed it with a hallway scene. So
right. The hallway scene was really good, to be honest with you. And then also, too, with Paul having that vision, you're not sure if that scene's going to be in there or not, because Paul's visions are not very clear to him just yet. Also, too, I like how Paul is trying to discover his powers, trying to discover who he is as a person, and things like that. He's also preparing for battle, but he's also doesn't know quite what to do with these visions that he's having in his sleep and things like that. And also, too, he has this other power. And Nick, you can go on ahead and tell me what that other power is, because I completely forgot what the voice. And you see, I liked how they managed to change that in the movie and everything too. How he uses the voice to get what he wants, because it's supposed to be this threatening kind of voice to make them and command them on what they're doing. It's kind of like Jedi mind trick in a sense, by commanding people to give them what they want and what they need to do.
It's exactly where Star Wars got the Force from, is the voice.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Cool. When did the books come out? I'm sorry.
The first Dune was written in 1965.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So and a little bit of history on it for those who haven't read it. It's the book that pretty much launched the sci-fi genre. Star Wars, Terminator, The Matrix, even stuff like Game of Thrones, all of it has its archetypes built within Dune.
Oh, cool.
I can definitely see elements of Terminator, elements of The Matrix, elements of other sci-fi genres that we loved and we grew up on within this Dune universe. And for this to be I know that the books are old, and I know that the original film is old and everything. It's just good to be able to give us a film that is geared towards us, and also seeing other elements play out within this universe that was used for other films that we love today. That is something that I really love and touched on, to be honest with you. And, I also, like I said, I like the voice and everything. And at first, I had a feeling that maybe it might be telepathic, and that's what I was thinking, because of the fact that it was taking me out of the film a little bit because it was not syncing up right with the digital quality of the film when I was watching it at my home. But then I went on, he had signed out and everything after that, because here's the thing, when the guy is reading the scroll and everything, when it was unsynced and it wasn't syncing up right, the guy's reading the scroll and everything, but nothing was being projected out of him. So I'm like, okay, is this part of the movie? Is this not part of the movie? What's the deal with it? Then once I wound up doing it and signing out, deleting the app, downloading the app. That's one of the problems about not going to the movie theaters or whatever to see this film, is because of things that are not actually great when it comes down to digital formats. There's actually problems within digital media whenever it comes down to that. And being able to see the guy read off the scroll, the conditions of them going into Arkansas, and being able to do that, I really love the fact that these are the rules, these are the guidelines. Do you accept these guidelines? Of course they accept, and then they're having to pack up everything they loved, everything that they known, so that way they can go on ahead, get the spice field back up again. Then also too, gain control of that, but gain control of the desert, but also gain control of the ocean. So therefore they can command two areas and to build their fleet up. That is something that I really liked about it, was the fact they're getting their soldiers together for battle. And it's a slow burn type of movie that I really feel like that is missing in some of our movies today, where it takes a minute for us to build up to another film, or within a couple of minutes of another scene or whatever. I feel like that this film does what it needs to do. It gives you that slow burn to where you're introduced into different universes and you let us know the politics of those different universes. And I think it's smart.
I thought they did a great job establishing the different planets too. That's definitely the hardest thing to do in film, because we don't have multiple planets to go to yet. Keyword. But yeah, I mean, that scene in particular that you're talking about, John, where they're reading the scroll and everything that's happening, there are so many little Easter eggs in there for the Dune fan that has actually gone out and read the books. Like those guys with the orange helmets don't say anything, but they're there. They're actually super important characters too. And like so much of that scene visually is just filled with information for part 2 and for the future of the Dune universe, if they continue to make the films.
But what about for you, Alex?
I was just thinking like how much, like I didn't mind the long run time, because what I really appreciate about this movie is that it went into like the little details about how the world works. Like one example is like when it's talking about how the Fremen have to walk across the desert to break the rhythmic vibration so they don't attract the sand, or like little things like that to show me how this world works. I really appreciate it when a movie takes the time to do that, because like I'm invested into it and in the story already. Like I want to know how this world works, and I appreciate that.
What about for you, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, the slow run, I mean, I don't typically like slow run, like long run times, unless it keeps you hooked in. And at first, it started a little bit slow, and then once it went to the next island, it's picked up. And as soon as like Paul was watching the intro video about the sandworms, and then about how to walk on that, and then that's when he saw the little hunter. What was that? What was that?
Hunter Seeker.
Seeker. Once that showed up, that's when the movie picked up. Because you knew that there was something was going on, like something was happening, some sinister was about to happen, and I think that's when it picked up. But to seeing them walk on the sands, like, are you guys practicing your martial arts or your Sun Chi-ness or whatever, I thought that was just funny. But seeing the sandworms visually, it was like, OMG, those paints are just
massive.
Yeah.
They
spent a full calendar year making those in post.
That's just crazy.
But
I like the narrator when, like Charlie was talking about how the character uses the narrator to tell us about a planet on what he's studying, is telling the audience a story within the world that they are living in, and they don't have to show us anything. They just have to tell us the story through the eyes of the narrator, through the eyes of Paul, and then they move on to the next thing without having to show a flashback, without them having to do many things or anything like that. I appreciated the fact that they didn't treat their audience like they were stupid, even though this is our first go-to into the Dune universe without reading the books. It's geared towards people that haven't read the books, and also too people who have read the books and can catch the little Easter eggs, like you said, Nick. But I appreciate the little stuff whenever it comes down to it, with the narration of it, explaining the rules, the regulations, and things like that. That's something that I really liked, and yeah, I think that is something that I really liked. And
yeah,
then,
nothing was spoon-fed to you in the movie. And to give a shout out to the guys that inspired me to read all the books, Alien Superhighway 69. Thanks, guys.
Greatest name ever.
Yeah. Upcoming podcast. We'll see if it gets started. Might be Dune oriented. We'll see.
But yeah, and then another thing, though, that I have to say is this. Whenever the witch comes over there to see Lady Jessica, and then she's like, well, this is your fault for not producing a female heir because of the fact that you gave birth to a male heir instead. And now he can't control his emotions. He can't control those visions like a woman can or anything like that. This is all your fault. I'm like, damn, that's pretty harsh to say to someone that has no control over the fact.
She does. She has
she
full
does?
control over that.
She does?
So
okay.
Year 10,191, right? We're way advanced. The Bene Gesserit, and this is, again, where the Force comes from, right? They're basically able to control every single cell in their bodies. So at the moment of conception, she made a conscious choice to have a son and go against the breeding programs that have been going on for about 8,000 years. Essentially, the Bene Gesserit triangle leading up to the perfect mind was one generation away. And it was supposed to be a boy the next generation. But Paul coming now throws a wrench in their plans. And essentially, when she said, we've done all we can to make sure he survives, she means that she's foreseen this as well, knowing that the decision was going to be made. And last second for them is like over the last few hundred years, they've been building up this religious superstition on Arrakis for when Paul arrives, because they know it's their only shot at getting their program back on track.
Right. And okay, so I didn't even know that she has the capability of changing the sex of the baby or anything like that, because I'm like, damn, that woman's just harsh towards her and stuff like that. I didn't even expect that. So I'm like, okay, so now that makes sense. And then also too, him having the hand in the box, and then of course if he winds up moving, right, but the needle, he'll die if he makes any sign moves and everything. So I'm like, ooh. What would I? And I'm picturing myself in his shoes. What would I do at that moment? Would I have the same reaction of trying to move my hand back, or would I go ahead and try to make any quick reactions? You know, so that's another thing that I have to say that I liked about it, was the fact that it made me question my own inabilities and stuff like that too, on how I would react to something like that. And also too, then once that winds up happening, we wind up seeing, of course, she goes, well, tell me more about those dreams you had. And it finds out more that it's more like visions versus having dreams. And they're not very 100% clear of what he's having. So that's something I liked about that. Is there anything that you guys wanted to dive into as far as that scene goes, or anything like that?
I was actually a bit confused on the, what are the women called? Bene Gesserit. Bene Gesserit. I was kind of lost. Like I understood the concept of the voice, but in terms of like what they were trying to do exactly was unclear to me. Like, are they trying to create this ultimate being, or are they just trying to make colonization on Arrakis easier? Or is it both?
For a Game of Thrones comparison, they're like an entire organization of little fingers.
Oh.
Like they're playing all of the they're pulling all the political strings behind the scenes. Like they control the emperor, they really are the ones who control the spice flow, even though the Harkonnens are the ones that own the fields up until the Atreides family takes over the planet. But ultimately, their only goal is this breeding program. It's their most important thing, and Jessica essentially ruined it for them. And now the consequences of that are unfolding, and that's why they're taking such a vetted interest in Paul.
Okay.
Okay. So that makes sense.
And that scene in particular for the book was basically word for word.
Okay.
That's crazy.
That is definitely crazy, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't expecting the fact that she can actually change the sexes. I didn't understand the concept with the women and things like that. I wish that they would give us a little bit more context with that part, because I feel like that needed to be explained a little bit more. But because I'm just feeling bad for Jessica. It's like, I was like, this woman doesn't have any control over who who the sex of the baby is or anything like that. Then all of a sudden, now you just told me that. Like, okay, never mind. She's had every right to complain about that. So,
so in the book, there is still a lot of reason to be sad for Jessica. For one, everybody within the Atreides house that's still alive after the attack thinks that she's behind it, and thinks that for some reason, because she's a Bene Gesserit witch, she has alternative plans for Paul and wants to kill him. They think that she's the one that put the hunter-seeker in his room. And of course, none of this is true. She's a loving mother all the way through. But, they definitely, in the film, tried to crank up the emotional appeal to her just from the way that she's treated in general. And that's important, especially like, the I should have married you stuff, all of that's in the book as well. She is a concubine, ultimately. She's not truly royalty. And that plays a major part in why the Bene Gesserit view the relationship the way that it is, right? It's a relationship out of love. It's not a relationship out of their plans. So all of these little mistakes, but her bloodline is so important, they don't really have a choice but to back whatever she does ultimately, making her very unique in the universe at that point. Because and they don't actually mention this in the movie, but the Emperor is the head of a dictatorship that rules over basically the known universe. So she's the one person in the known universe that has this right mixture of genes to create the perfect next person for their plans, and she threw it off.
So now you have like an imperfect person trying to balance all these powers out and everything too, and trying to figure out who he is. I like that complexity, to be honest, of the characters, about character growth and layers to a character that I care about. So I like Paul. I mean, I'll have to say this: I do like Paul in this movie because of the
perfect casting.
It definitely is. He has that awkwardness to him. He also has this introvert kind of thing where he wants to stay to himself kind of thing. But the only person he can actually connect with is Duncan, because he's the only one that he can pretty much is on the same. Duncan and him are on that same level. Too. So that's something I did appreciate. And of course, the back and forth with the father and Paul was really good. Because I also liked how they come from this family where they thought it was fun to fight a bull. And they even had the big bull head to represent the grandfather in the past life. So I like that, to show some type of history within the family without having to show us the history of that family. So I like that.
To bring it back to something that is only given in the movies a little bit because of the bull and the last name and stuff like that, but in the books it's described in further detail. They're all from ancient Greek lineage, basically the line of kings from like the Spartan era, and they all worshiped bulls back then. So that was a little nugget that Herbert decided to throw in there, was on top of them having a Greek last name and their features. If you describe Timothée Chalamet as a human being, what he looks like, it's almost verbatim what Frank Herbert envisioned for Paul Atreides. So they really just nailed that there, tying those two together.
They definitely did. And before we carry on with the rest of this review, There's a little something that Jason Momoa did to his face that I want to just bring up real quick. He ended up shaving, and here's the thing: I was curious about what he could be shaving with, and and I know that we have a ball bag inside the live chat that I had a ban, but it's always good to shave with the right kind of blade. That's why you want to go ahead and get yourself a Manscaped. And also, too, guess what? You get 20% off using Movie Loves Unite plus free shipping and handling. And get this, support for Movie Loves Unite is supported by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming, champions of the world like Jason Momoa uses Manscaped, offers precise engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The 4.0 joined over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Even Jason Momoa would have to agree that this is a good deal, especially during the holiday season, especially whenever you're going by the fireplace and everything during this. Keeping your nuts warm and an open fire is definitely not the right way to go, but you want to be able to shave in front of an open fire with a Manscaped. And using Movie Lovers Unite for your free 20% off shipping and free handling is definitely the right way to go. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I'm one of the first people to try the 4.0, and I'm blown away with the performance, the craftsmanship, and detail on the 4.0 are next level. Let me just say this. You don't want to be like Rambo out in the jungle, shave your beard or anything like that with that long knife. No, you want something smooth. You want something to actually say, hey, look, I'm a man. I need something smooth for my boys. This is what I need to have. Because trust me, shaving with the wrong thing can nip your balls, and you don't want to nip your balls in the wrong way or make you bleed out or anything like that. That's not good to nip your balls. So using the 4.0 Manscaped engineering the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience, the 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramatic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. I now feel confident, like Jason Momoa does, shaving his boys and shaving my boys. So the upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000 LED the spotlight on and off for those needed to hard to reach places that you never knew that you had before. Having that LED light definitely helps because you don't want to look like Chewbacca by the time the night is over with. You want to at least your woman say, gee, you have some nice balls. So the Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. Did I mention wireless charging? The new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. Men, if you've been shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. No, sir, you don't. They don't want to have anything to pull out of their teeth. That's just nasty. Men are just disgusting if you think about it. But with the Manscaped 4.0, you don't have to worry about no pubes in your mouth. Because you know why? Because you're in good hands with Manscaped. And it's the time to get your ball and body trimmer with Manscaped to make me time the best time and enhance your confidence with some nice smooth boys. Get 20% off, free plus shipping and handling with the code Movie Loves Unite at manscaped.com, and your balls will thank you. So that's everything that you need to know about Manscaped 4.0, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of our review.
Surprised, like in the chat, the private chat, you didn't say shave with the best arachnus, Manscaped.
I know, I spoon-fed that to you.
Sorry, dude. I was just going.
The best of Arrakis with Manscaped.
I'm going to use that for the next one. I promise.
Okay. Don't know how to come out after that one.
How's everyone's ball feeling? A little sandy? They say you have to shower with.
You know what's good for that though? The ball deodorant is good for the sandy areas that you don't want to feel like you're on Arrakis or anything like that. And also too, that's also why you want to shave with the best of Arrakis Manscaped. It's perfect for you. You would come out looking like Jason Momoa on a good day, not on a bad day. So go ahead, get yourself a Manscaped 4.0. I guarantee you, your balls will thank you.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, I didn't know this was an infomercial. Okay.
It is now, Charlie.
Yeah, I know.
I want to see like a Dune QVC though, where it's all just like different random Fremen products that you could find out there. like a thumper, but like it's been used and like really beat up.
That hunter seeker, you can use it for a very close shave. Like if you want to nick yourself, you'll get that. Like the little tip of it's gonna nick you. Like I mean.
Ooh, so that actually brings up an important little nugget that we can bridge over with the Chrissy knives, which are the knives made out of the tooth of the worm, right? So if you guys all noticed at the end, all the Fremen cut their wrist with it on the top. That's because those blades need to be charged with blood. As soon as they touch air, they start losing their potency. But when they're fully charged, they're like twice as lethal as like just a regular knife. Like just stabbing someone with like a little prick, and like it's not exactly like a poison. Like you can poison them, but it's more of just like a more effective attack at that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I missed that part.
They don't talk about that specifically in the movie. It was just one of those little nuggets that's in there. Like they cut it. Like the woman that gives Jessica the knife in the book, she actually has to prick her with it reluctantly. And that's like this ultimate sign. Like she gave her water from her blood to the blade so that it's at its most effectiveness for the chosen one's mother.
That actually explains a lot now that we actually have that in the context, because at first you don't know what the blade actually represents or anything. We just know it's a blade to do some damage and to kill the person that they need to kill. So I'm glad that you explained it in that context, because I didn't even have a clue about that.
Well, and to get it too, you know, it's from the mouth of a worm, and from the look of it, right, they're not killing those very easily. There is a way to do it. I'm not going to spoil it because it'll most likely be talked about in part 2. But to get it, you know, it's a great honor, and it to kind of tap into our own history. You know, in the Middle East, there's certain religions that believe as soon as the blade leaves its sheath, it has to draw blood. That's really where he pulled from for this, for the book.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of cultures were kind of blended together to create the futuristic culture that is the Imperium.
And sorry, go ahead, John.
No, go on ahead, Charlie.
I was about to say, isn't that the knife that he gets stabbed in the dream sequence where he's down on the ground? Like that, wasn't that Chris knife that he gets stabbed with? Oh, okay, because he started bleeding a lot after that one. So
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Well, so that's actually, that symbolizes also the Holy War that's coming, right? And you know, I'm sure if you guys remember back when he's having that vision and he sees all of the Fremen on Calderon, or no, that's Caladan. Sorry, not Star Wars. When they're all on Caladan and they're all chanting his name, right, for the Atreides, the Fremen aren't on Dune anymore. And as we learned earlier in the film, transporting people across space is incredibly expensive. So that kind of symbolizes Paul's Holy War is going to be jumping from multiple planets, not just on Arrakis. And the amount of blood that's on Chani's hand symbolizes the intense amount of bloodshed that is going to come from his Holy War. Which is why he's freaking out to his mother when they're inside the tent.
Wow, that's a major foreshadowing. Because it'll be like the blood is on his hands now. And they're, and also too, dealing with the fact that because it's on his hands, it's heavy that wears the crown, basically. So I like that. And also too, the tent thing I really liked, because their own blood and their own sweat and tears is what's holding them together. And also too, that's what they're basically surviving off of with the tent that is holding their sweat and everything. And I like that though, because it feels like, yeah, they're hiding out, but at the same time, they're sweating and stuff like that, but they're using it as a way to survive and also help each other. And I like that.
That was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, to be honest. Just from an execution standpoint, I mean, it's a simple scene. They're just inside a tent. But so much happens in there that's important for the overarching story, for his immediate story, for Jessica's story. I mean, the part where he goes, "You're pregnant." She's like, "How'd you know that?" You know, it's him telling his mother right there. I'm so sensitive to what's happening right now that I even know what's happening to you. And he's having visions of that future and what's to come. And what's to come is insanely mind blowing. And I can't wait for you guys to experience it in part 2.
If I may backtrack for a little bit, we were
Mhm.
talking about characters we liked. Paul, I didn't care for him in this movie. I thought he was very wooden as a person. I was just like, there's not really much about him that draws me to him. Is that how? And I don't think it's like acting, because Timothy Chalamet, if I hope I said it right, like he's a great actor. I know he knows what he's doing, but it's just like the character Paul himself was just the least impressive to me. Like it was like, oh, why would anyone want to follow
Yeah.
him? He just seems very boring. Like, is that how he is in the book too? He's just very like.
He is 17 in the book, so he's very much that awkward teenager who hasn't quite found his way yet. He has those emotional outspurts, like in the tent. You know, that's not a choice that Timothy made. That's something that the character really has in him. He's extremely conflicted. So there's going to be that shy reluctancy to him, kind of mixed with that Atreides cockiness. And the more and more he evolves as a person, he kind of elevates both of those in a way. Like he becomes a more conservative person, but has these incredible powers and gifts that are undeniable. So he kind of embraces both. So I mean, you're definitely going to see some major growth over him, especially if they follow the timeline that happens with this upcoming act. You know, we're going to see a few years of growth.
Yeah, it's just like I'm just watching him, and his face just remained the same for most of the movie for me. Like I'm very big into like the characters. Like I always visualize like, oh, could I hang out with this dude? And I was just like, I would not want to chill with Paul. He just seemed like he would be depressing me, and I'd have to leave. Like, I'm gonna go away, Paul. Like,
a little foreshadow to the future. His son Leto too, you would love to hang out with.
Okay, that's
way better.
I can see you hanging out with Paul on the beach or something in the ocean. It's like, so Paul, what you doing? Just sitting here watching the waves. Yeah,
he's just
dude, I'm
spooning sand in his hand.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm gonna leave, Paul. I'm gonna go hang out with.
I just tripped with this girl. This girl that's right in front of you. But I mean, like I think the character, like I mentioned before, I really like Duncan because he brought some comic relief to it. I just thought he was hysterical. Like the part's like, "Hey, so you grow some muscle? Really? No." Like just the the delivery of it, and every time he's on there, it's like it's enjoyable because you want to hear what Duncan's gonna say next. I mean, it's just like he's just that character, and it feels like the bond between him and that. I think he had more bond with the male characters than he does his own mother, and I just feel like the mother just seems like just pushing him. Like every time she can, she's criticizing him. I'm like, you should have used the voice darker or deeper or whatever. And that's all. I mean, yeah, she's trying to look out for him, but it's like, I mean, it's like we can't trust you. Like, I mean, it's like, I mean, and then again, it's like I've seen since the first couple movies I've seen her in was Mission Impossible, and she was always playing the double two sides. So you just don't know if you can trust her. So I think she's bringing that character because you can sort of trust her because she's the mom, but then you can't.
She's playing like 100 sides. You're spot on with that.
Yeah, and it's just like she's playing multiple sides, and then it's like so that's the one you can't really trust. Like the one character, like I mean, I liked. I thought Oscar Isaac was fantastic as the dad, albeit short, but I liked him because he cared about his son, and then that one outburst he had, like his Paul was like that. I think the dad just doesn't understand what Paul's going through, which is really where the mom comes in, where she's able to understand him. So it's like it's a two complexities like between two of them. Like the dad's like straight like military that, and then the mom knows all about the vision. So you're able to go to her, but then not the dad. And then the last outburst the dad had was like, "Don't ever do it again." And that's the last time he saw his dad. Was that before he gets captured?
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of wish they had a better moment in a sense because you kind of feel like you feel bad for Paul
Mm-hmm.
because the last moment he had of his dad is his dad yelling at him for almost dying. And it wasn't really Paul's fault. It's because Paul is having a hard time controlling what's going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I get that, and then like I said, the only guy who really was with him towards almost the end was Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he had 2 hallway fight scenes. I mean, if you can get 2 hallway fight scenes with Jason Momoa, I mean, that's what I wish Sweet Girl had more of with him in it. But then again, like to have him have that battle and then him get out, like when you think he died, he gets up, kills more people, and then goes out. He goes out with a bang, and that's the best person. Like that was the best way for him to go out in a sacrifice and just be awesome. But
yeah, he's like outside of Paul for me, my absolute favorite character. Just like from the book in general. Though I have to give the credit where it's due. Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen, I thought was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. He was creepy.
And
he was
definitely
disgustingly creepy. Like him on the wall, like at the end, I was like, "What the heck? How did they?"
Oh yeah, after the poison tooth.
Oh my god, that so was cool. Like he was so creepy looking. But I wonder if he was the inspiration for Jabba the Hutt. I don't know. I mean,
definitely partially. In the books, he's described as that excessively overweight gajillionaire, right? He can do anything he wants. He has no boundaries for the rules. He has zero consequences for his actions. And in the books, it even goes as far as like, sexual assault. He's a pedophile, straight up. Like they make no bones about it as what he is. He murders people in front of his own people all the time. But he's so rich and powerful, and his family has such a control on their little faction of the Imperium that there's nothing anybody can do about it. And that's really what the Fremen have been dealing with now. In the movie, it was 80 years. I believe it's much longer than that in the books. That part I'm a little hazy on. But, their cruelty is right up there with any dictatorship that we've experienced in our own time. And that, I mean, you can really tell he was pulling from the Nazis and the Japanese in particular with their, public executions and shaming of the enemy in order to make them subservient to your will. That's what the Harkonnens do. And it was all written in 1965. So you kind of can just connect the dots of when he was drawing from.
Right. And not only that, but we also see Dave Bautista's character and the way he murders people in front of other people too. You see that being replicated and everything too. What the Emperor's done in front of them, they're also replicating it in front of their enemy though too. Hey, look, you're gonna die just as you guys watch your own family die. So I like that kind of aspect to it, and also too, the Emperor himself is threatening. He was menacing. You actually understand what his motives were. You understand how threatening he was,
but you never see him.
Well, the pawn that they have. That's basically what I'm saying. But you see layers of the Emperor into this villain that they have for the main baddie that we have. And that's something that I wanted. That's what I was meaning behind it. And, I like that though. And then also too, that pretty much like a kiss of death kind of thing. In a sense, with the poison when he was crushing when the father winds up crushing the pill with his tooth, and then the poison comes out, and then of course we think that he's dead, but then you wind up finding out later on he's actually healing himself, and he's trying to get the spice back up again, the spice operation back up again, because so the way he can have control over that. My other question is this: now, was that machinery actually tampered with to where it was designed for them to feel? Because I did feel like with Oscar Isaac, I did feel like they were set up to feel.
So essentially, the Emperor and the Harkonnens are collaborating to destroy the Atreides family because of the threat. Twofold. The Harkonnens are extremely greedy. They want to maintain control over Arrakis, the spice, everything, and basically be the leading family within the Imperium, still serving underneath House Shaddam, right? But at the same time, the Emperor is very weak. And that's part of why we didn't see him in the first act, He doesn't come to major ceremonies. He's not a big public figure. He's extremely brash and he's extremely, materialistic, but he's a huge softy. So the Atreides having this big, bold voice and this solid bloodline coming up, he essentially needs to destroy them. So he tries to lure them into Arrakis and, weaken their hand as much as he can. So he's encouraging the Harkonnens to do things like destroy all their spice collectors because the Harkonnens have so much money built up, they can just buy new ones easily. They spent a fortune getting all their forces over to Arrakis to retake it, but it's just a drop in the bucket to what their overall worth is. So rebuilding all of that stuff is nothing to them. They want to make sure that the Atreides know that this isn't going to work out for them, and very soon, their number is going to be called.
Right, and basically we got that too whenever they first come off the ship and everything too, where it's intense, and also too, and Paul is thinking, wow, all these people came out, and like I said before, they were made to come out because they were forced to come out to clap and celebrate and everything, but deep inside, they consider them enemies of their country. So therefore, it has like a little bit mafia type of vibes to it in a sense. Also, too, mixed in with the Red Wedding kind of thing. Basically, whenever they wind up insulting the king by giving trying to bring another daughter into play to marry that, I'm like, yeah, that person's dead. With this one, they're entering a planet that hates them, and they're trying to have it to where they have their army and to where they can get their spice operation back and operational again. But they don't want any part of it. They just want them out of there, no matter any means possible, even destroying their own equipment to do so. So I like that.
And a lot of that has to do with the treatment that the Harkonnens gave the Fremen. It's very, very similar to the American West, where white settlers are moving in, taking the resources, and once they figure out how to collect said resources, killing off or driving out whoever stands in their way. And unfortunately for the Fremen, they didn't realize their own strength until it was too late.
And the Harkonnen are literally white. And that was funny.
Yes, they're extremely white. Pasty as can be.
I was like, we need to make this a point.
So white that in 1984 they cast Sting as Rabin, which is Dave Bautista's character, for those of you who don't know.
I think that was a good choice. I mean, the cast is like how they got all this together. Usually I've fallen for the trap. Big cast, good director, yeah, movie. I mean, it happened before with Ridley Scott. So The Counselor, for me, that was one of the worst movies I ever seen. The ending was the one that I was like completely pissed off at. But you had Penelope Cruz, Michael Fassbender, Javier Bardem, Cameron Diaz, and Brad Pitt. And I believe you had Marjorie from Game of Thrones was in it. Movie sucked. Like, it was like, the only cool part was this weapon called the Bolito. It's like a wiretap. So essentially you slip it, you just walk up on somebody, slip it. It's like kind of an invisible rope or whatever. Slip it over the person's neck and walk, and you just press the button. It's a mechanical one. And that weapon is like the only highlight of that movie.
It's like a garrote wire?
It's kind of like one of those wire things like Hitman uses.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So you just walk around. I think it's something you can put in your hand. Just walk past somebody, slip it over their neck, and press a button, and then there's nothing you can do. Yeah, and it was pretty deadly, but that was the only highlight. And then again, and it was directed by Ridley Scott. So and the fact that this movie had so many big cast members in it, from Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa, Timothée Chalamet, like all of them, it worked. So it's like I like that. And then, but I got to talk about the suits. Those suits were awesome. Like the suits, like this visually were so cool looking, and the fact that Paul knew, like the lady was impressed that Paul was like, wait, you knew that? Yeah, I just figured it was fine. Yeah. Like the way he had his suit set up, like how she had to fix everybody else's. And Gunny was about to like chop her head off. Like Gunny was like, he was about to go Thanos on her. And then that's when like Leto had this like, no, just show out,
Mhm.
and then Paul's like, no, she didn't have to do anything with Paul's, which I thought, but the suits were cool looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and that has a lot to do with, Paul has seen Shawnee wearing the still suit so many times in a row in his dream. He just kind of knew how it fits. Like, he's seen it enough. Well, and he studies them. That's true too. Thank you for the chime in, Catherine.
Other question I had was, when we saw the trailers, was there parts from the trailer that were not in this movie that might be like shown for future movies?
Which part are you referring to?
I don't know. It's just there's a lot. I think there was a scene. I know the two of them, Shawnee and Paul, kiss. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be in later movies. And I think
so. That happens in the film, but it's just one of his like many flashpoint memories.
Okay.
But yeah, he's having little memories of the future. Basically, all of that stuff's happening inside Stitch Tabor. So where they're heading to after the Jameis knife fight at the very end, all that stuff's about to be revealed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like there's little nuggets of it, like. For instance, that huge battle scene that they kept advertising for when he flips his mask up and then it turns out it was just in a memory. That's going to be part of a much larger campaign that happens in the next scene that involves just everything that you've been seeing.
Yeah, because I didn't know, because when you see the trailer and this is multiple movies, I thought they had that planned out already, and I figured they'd be showing scenes from the other movies in the trailer. I just didn't know it was. Because I think the movie is just like going by so fast. It's like it's a quick second. So that's why I figured I asked. But thanks for that.
That's another thing that I liked about it was the fact that it showed everything that was in the trailer. They didn't take anything out of it and left it on the editing room floor. And that's something I appreciate with this film. And because of the fact, too, it's also part of his visions. But you were talking about Javier Bardem. I like whenever he shows up. And then you have Duncan and them showing respect to him. Where
by
you have
spitting.
Paul... Right. He goes, okay, so that's the way you do things. Okay. And then at first I took it as an insult, which it is an insult, but then of course what Jason Momoa's character does is he uses it as a way that's comical but also too respectful to them by basically saying, okay, so you disrespected us. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and show the same disrespect towards us. So by doing that, we're going to go ahead and spit too.
Stop it right there.
Okay.
No. So what's happening is when they're spitting, water is extremely important. It's the only thing that matters to the Fremen. So when you spit, you're giving your water. So it's actually a sign of respect from one leader to the other. And the Atreides who don't know that yet take it as an insult until Duncan Idaho steps in and goes, no. That's not how he means it. And he gives his water back in respect. So the whole room spits.
Okay.
And there's little other pieces of that throughout. Like when they're going to make the coffee before the Harkonnens and the Sardaukar attack the ecological plant towards the end of the movie, they're all contributing spit into the collector that's synthesizing out all of the bad stuff and just pulling out the water for their coffee. Everyone in the tribe is contributing to the water. When they take Jameis's body at the end, they don't talk about exhuming the body or burials. They talk about taking his water, right? They're going to pull every ounce of water out of anything that they can if it is needed for the tribe, much like the Native Americans did here, where they used every bit of a kill. Every ounce of water is necessary for survival on Arrakis. So to give it is the ultimate honor.
I had strong Ace Ventura vibes. I was just like, okay, where's Jim Carrey? Come in. Aren't I the popular one?
Jim Carrey as a Fremen would be great.
I thought the reason why Jason Momoa knew that was because wasn't he undercover with living with them for that long period of time? So I think that's how he knew more of their culture. As he liked to say, they fight like demons, and it's like that one. I just thought every time you see him, he's got the beard. Doesn't have the beard. He's got the beard. It's like very like the editing. It's like the sequence where he's wearing the white dress shirt or whatever, coming out like he looks like he just woke up from a really pissed off nightmare and he's about to beat up some people. Like you see him with no beard there,
Yeah.
And as after that point on, you see him sort of with the beard and this sort of. And I thought that was just kind of funny. He's like, oh, okay, beard, no beard. It's kind of like the mustache gate from Justice League. Henry Cavill, mustache, no mustache.
But yeah, here's another thing though too. Let's talk about like the final scene whenever he's fighting and finally meets up with Zendaya. Zendaya winds up handing him the blade, which he saw in his visions. It's bloody. He wasn't sure at first who was going to hand him the blade. At first I thought it was going to be Lady Jessica for some reason that was going to hand him the blade because she actually had one of those same blades. So I remember looking at my fiance. I'm like, it's got to be Lady Jessica because of the fact that she has the same blade that was handed to her at the beginning of the film, and then you wind up finding it's Zendaya that does it. And even though she doesn't do much in the film, she does wind up motivating the fight scene a little bit to be able to have the blade in his hand. Then, of course, I liked how it basically this reminds me of Black Panther. Let me see your champion. So he winds up taking Paul as the champion to be able to go ahead and face off against each other and then kill them. And then Paul's trying to show mercy to him, but in their culture, they don't show mercy on to anybody. You kill that person, then you take that person's spot. So, in a sense, he's trying to be like T'Challa in a sense where he's trying to show mercy to somebody, but in that culture, you can't show mercy. Is that also a sign of weakness in their culture to show mercy to somebody because of the fact that you're not willing to take a life because you're not willing to take a life, so therefore, because you didn't take that life, then we don't have anybody else here to stand with.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a blood match through and through. They're a warring society. Keep what you kill. So Jameis, not believing in the religious superstition that has been instilled on their tribe for years, or at least not believing that Paul represents that, challenges the outsiders, because that's all they are to him, to this fight. He doesn't believe that they should be given the right to see how Fremen live.
And my other question is this, though, too, and I'll let Alex go ahead after me, but because I know you have another question, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Real quick. You know what? I'm going to let you go first, and I'll go.
It was just like a couple of comments. First off, I was just thinking the whole movie, I was like, man, Zendaya got a really chill job out of this. She had like 3 lines, like, hey, look, Zendaya, you just need to say like 4 sentences, but all you do this movie is just...
Here's a cool million. Show your eyes.
We're
also going to superimpose blue over them.
And Zendaya, we need you sitting outside on a cliff in the desert, and we're going to zoom in on you, and then it's going to fade away. So do that real quick.
So chill.
Some sexy flowing robes. Some blue eyes.
You know how you do modeling shoots? That's what all you're doing.
And you're working with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. All you gotta do is you're rolling in Spider-Man. Okay, it's gonna be 100% less than that.
You know how you talk in other movies? You're not.
No.
There's no dialogue.
Pay you $50 million. Okay.
And then another comment, I just thought it was funny. What's the guy that Paul fight? What's his name again?
Jameis.
He's like built up to be like the more ferocious warrior of their group, right? I just thought it was lightweight, disrespectful. How it was just like, you're gonna fight the most ferocious warrior in our tribe, so you're probably gonna die, Paul. And Paul just straight up disrespects him and just like slaps the shit out of him multiple times in front of his friends, and then stabs him. And I was just like, that was actually very easy for Paul to kill this guy. Like everyone was betting against him. I'm like, like I get Paul has like powers and he had that foresight. But I was just like, damn, they couldn't even like
one of his powers.
It was one of his
other power. Remember what I was saying earlier about the Bene Gesserit women being able to control every single cell in their body?
Yeah.
Well, Jessica has been training Paul in that art, on top of all of the mental stuff in the voice.
And which is also why the witch is mad at her in the first place, too.
So for him, he can metaphysically beat any opponent before they've even swung their first strike.
Oh.
Like, he just sees it. It's faster, you know. That's why he's grabbing his hand, putting the blade up, grabbing his hand, putting the blade up. Like, he could have killed him 15 times in the first second.
Oh, damn.
But he
He's
didn't.
Johnny. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But he didn't because he showed mercy. Was trying to show
Right.
mercy to him. But then once
He's
he
an
realized, right, because then once he realized, hey, look, it's either killed or be killed.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, he had to kill him. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my question is this: of course, he has the voice. Of course, he has the visions and stuff like that. Remember when his father said, "Well, now we can control the sand and the water." Now, does he have the ability to control the sandworms and also the water? Now, that's something that I was wondering about too, because I'm
Yes.
like,
Not the water, but
Water worms.
Alaskan sandworms.
remind me of Michael Bay. You know what this film needs? Water worms.
Yeah. But to answer your question, John, the part where they're being chased by the worm and it stops right in front of him,
Yeah.
that's because he's spice sensitive, and the voices that he's hearing are the sandworms. He is connected with them at a level that no one understands yet. And it's something very, very special about him. And the worms revere him in a way.
Okay. Because
without
Because I
giving too
remember
much
when
away about
the guy
that,
he
yeah.
faced off against, he said, "No, that wasn't him. That was my thumper that stopped the sandworm."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like,
But
okay,
it was Paul.
Okay, because it was making me think:
Yes.
did Paul stop it, or did the thumper stop it?
No. So that's part of Jameis's justification for going against the religious mythos that's created around Paul. Is he's saying no, he doesn't have that ability, because one of the abilities in their superstitions is he'll have the ability to control the worms. And that's our first glimpse of Paul actually having that talent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically Keanu Reeves. He's Neo, but
yes,
sci-fi or like a old, like a very like different version of Neo in a sense.
Like I said, it launched a lot of movies.
And to go back on the whole point about how he's able to pick up everything I was about to make. Oh, so he's basically Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, but it's a good movie.
I know.
Oh, I liked those movies.
I did too. I just want that, but
honestly,
Sherlock.
they're fine. It just sounded fun.
I mean, yeah.
It was good.
But yeah, him stop when he just basically said he's able to stop stuff. I was like, oh, he's basically Neo. But it's like, and then also it's like, so, and then the other part of the reason why you can't really trust Lady Jessica is because the people that she was from, they were trying to like kill the family, and they said, don't hurt the son or Jessica. And he goes, oh, we're not, which we kind of know they were. So it's like, you can't, like, again, that's just another reason why you sort of can't really trust her, because like how she grew up, they're corrupting her mind. So it's like, it's just a lot of like not trusting with her, which I was hoping, take her away and bring back Duncan.
There is so many more layers to the story that are to come, but you're on the right track, Charlie.
And that's what my high school principal told me until I ended up failing his class. But, you know. But, you know, I do appreciate you coming on the show, Nick, and everything, just doing like a Q&A movie review of this on stuff that we had questions over. Because the fact we didn't know what we were going to be diving into and things like that within the world of Dune. We didn't know how complex the story was. We didn't know anything going into it. Now I actually feel like I have the knowledge of being able to explain to people certain things that you explain to me and make myself feel smarter, even though they come from you. But still, I'm happy that you were able to come on the show with us and to be able to have a Q&A with us, to be able to talk to us about Dune. Because if not, we would have been doing a lot of just doing speculations and theory and stuff like that. So I do appreciate you doing that with us.
That's a big reason why I wanted to do this too, because you know, I'm very passionate about the book, as you can tell. I'm a new reader too. For those of you out there who like, I don't have the time, I read all these books in the last like year and a half. So
that's impressive.
Savage.
You know,
Respect.
it's not one of those things where my whole life I've been a Dune fan and I've known everything about it. They're incredible reads, mostly because the writing is so strong. But then the story just pulls you in. And I felt like this rendition of it was as near perfect to the book as you can get with a film. And
this
I'm
is why I'm
really
gonna have
happy
you
that
on
you
for
decided
part
to
2.
review it and have me on. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And this is why I'm going to have you on again for part 2 and part 3, so that way we can have more
And the Bene
Q&A discussion.
Gesserit HBO series too, that's coming out in between the two.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah,
if you guys have
that's
seen
right.
that.
I forgot
So
about that.
in that series, I haven't read too much about the timeline, but just to speculate a little bit on it, I'm guessing that it's going to take place pre-Paul, and we're going to get Jessica's story, and they're going to weave in what's called the Butlerian Jihad, which
Mm.
is the part, you know, before we started going live that I was talking about. In the prelude of the books, mankind goes to war with computers and the machines and artificial intelligence, essentially. So we have to give up all computers, all abilities to make electronic thought. And the Bene Gesserit play a key role in defeating that. And so I'm curious if they're going to go back to when that was happening and then pull us forward into Jessica's time leading up to the birth of Paul, when she's doing her Bene Gesserit training and when she's doing all the stuff that kind of get her to where she's at in part 1.
Okay. Well, with that being said, thank you again, Nick, for coming on here, talking about Dune with us, reviewing Dune with us. I do appreciate Brandy in the comments. I'll accept the ball bag that I had to block. But
He did ask a good question. He goes, "Did they announce when part 2 is coming out?" So far it's 2023, and they're going to start filming it next year,
October 23rd, 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't I don't know. I could hopefully it comes out in 2023. I don't know. I mean, luckily they already have this set and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's gonna be like a intense couple months just to film this. So
right.
Yeah,
hopefully they put Zendaya to work this time.
Yeah. Well, what's to come is even bigger, even grander, and more spectacular than part 1.
Nice.
I mean,
all right. So with that being said, Alex, where can everybody follow you at?
Oh, you guys can follow me if you choose to on Twitter or Instagram at ATownAlex3. I don't know why I picked the number 3, but that's where you can follow me. And you can check out my movie reviews at A-Town Reviews.
And Nick, where can everybody follow you at and everything else? I know you're busy doing some acting and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone can find me on Instagram, NC Kafkis. Nick Kafkis is the name. Or you can follow one of my film accounts called Glass _2021.
Okay, and everybody, you guys can go on ahead, follow me underneath all social medias under Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite on Facebook and on Instagram and on Pinterest as well. Then, of course, if you guys want an audio-only podcast of this episode of mini shows that we do here at Movie Lovers Unite, you guys can get that wherever you guys get your major podcasts from. Also, too, go ahead and rate us on Good Pods. You know what Good Pods is? I'm glad that you guys asked what Good Pods is. Good Pods is basically social media for podcasts. So if you're into podcasting or if you're a podcaster yourself, or you just like listening to podcasts, go on ahead, check out Good Pods, rate us on Good Pods and everything. You can rate individual episodes, tell us what you think about the episode, and we'll also interact with you over there. Then, of course, I do some promotions and stuff like that off of TikTok. You guys can follow me underneath Movie Lovers Unit 01 or 0. And so, therefore, that's where you can reach me at over there. Then, of course, you guys can reach me underneath Movie Lovers Unit on Twitter as well. And then you guys can go on ahead. If you're a sponsor or would like to be on the show, all you have to do is reach out to me at movieloversunite@gmail.com. That's everywhere that you guys can do. Also, too, if you want to donate to the page, how do you do that? You just go on ahead, go to gofundme.com/Movie Lovers Podcast, and that's how you can donate $5 to $10 to the page. And we'll be grateful for that. But if you can't, I totally understand this pandemic has holes in your guys' pockets and stuff like that. Just go on ahead and just smash that little subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner. Also, too, go on ahead and give us a thumbs up. Smash that little bell on the right-hand side. That's good enough for us to say, hey, look, we have some new stuff coming out. As a matter of fact, speaking of new stuff, I actually have finishing off my Halloween series. Yeah, I'm still doing that. I'm going to be doing the Shining review with Christopher Minori tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. This is more of a movie discussion rather than review, comparing the movie to the book and dissecting the book from the movie and doing it that way. So if you're into that, go on ahead, check me out, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time, with independent writer Christopher Minori for that. Then, of course, like I said, email me at movielovesunite@gmail.com. And I also do another thing too is I also teamed up with Two Blur Girls podcast to do a charity with them, and it's through Cincy. All proceeds go to the children of St. Jude's Hospital. We raised $792, which is more than our goal, and we're doing it again this month. So go on ahead, donate. It helps for a good cause. And always until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. Can't wait to do this again. And thank you again, guys, for taking the time out of your night to review Dune with me. I do appreciate that. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Fear is the mind killer.